Alright, let's see if we can make this work. Hello there. My name is Crimson J, and welcome to your VOD review slash coaching session, if you will. I hope that you are doing really well, and today I'm going to do the best I can, and we're just going to run through this replay, and then analyze things, and I'm going to try and sort of let you know what you can do better. So, should be pretty standard stuff. I can see that you forgot your potion. You went Doran's and one potion. You're supposed to have two. I don't know if that's a glitch in my replay, but if it isn't, don't forget your second potion. Never do that. I'm gonna turn off Fog of War, or turn it on, rather. I need... You're on the blue team. There we go. There we go. Okay. So it looks like your Jax is starting top, which means you should leash him. So this is definitely the right thing to do. It looks like you guys got invaded. That was very strange. See, this is the thing where when you look at the lanes and you ask, can Sejuani pull off a gank top lane to kill you? The answer is yes. Yes, she can. She can do that at level 3 with red buff. But I don't know what she's gonna do because that invade was a little strange. It looks like Jax and Sejuani are just gonna trade buffs. So I wouldn't expect Sejuani to be at the top side of the map anytime soon. There she is, though, actually. She's rotating to her raptors, as you can see. I think you guys saw that. I think based on the fact that Sejuani could kill you if she wanted to gank you, justifies... Yeah, you should have probably saved that Q for the Urgot, because he's going to get ganked now. Yeah, so this is a question of just map awareness. Let's just take it back a little bit. Oh, camera, please. Okay. So you take that minion with your Q because your E is on cooldown. Sometimes you need, as Kayle, you need to not be afraid of meleeing a minion. Usually it's not going to get you killed. Most of the time when you melee a minion, your lane opponent won't even damage you. Partially because they don't expect it, and partially because it's just not that easy to punish. Jesus, this camera just hates me. Okay, there we go. I think that fixes it. So you are... I don't know if your E actually ran out there or not, but if you could have used your E, you should have done that. You can see that Jax started at blue buff because you leashed him. You already know that. And then because Sejuani invaded bot side, she's going to have his red, and then she's going to rotate most likely to her own blue buff. She could also rotate from red to red and try to gank Yasuo on the way in the mid lane. But most likely she's going to run to her blue buff because she's going to want the buff, and Jax knows that. So Jax chooses to invade, right? And you need to basically have the map awareness to walk up to Urgot. First of all, the Q should have not been used on the minion because you need it for Urgot here. And secondly, you should have been farther forward here. Because you're just not in range to do anything by the time Jax comes into lane. So Jax comes into lane, he has his stun up. Let's see what happens. So your Q comes back up, okay. That's surprising. You get a flash, that's good, that's good. That's okay. You need to push up the lane here. Jax should help you with that, actually. You should be pushing hard, because you need to force the teleport out of Urgot. And the problem with not pushing here is that he's going to come back in lane with items, and you're not going to have items, so he's just going to come back and kill you if the lane's not pushed up. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, because right now the lane is kind of frozen in his favor. So imagine if Sejuani comes around now, she's going to fucking kill you, right? So this is why you needed to push as hard as you could, and in an ideal world, in an ideal world, the Jax should have helped you push as well. Now, I don't know how much gold you have, or if there's a way I can see that. But I think staying in lane here is fine. You have wards, so you're not going to die from Sejuani. And pushing the lane up here is also fine. There's pretty much no reason not to push. As long as you have vision, pushing as Kayle is really, really good because it ensures that you get as much CS as possible. And also, it enables you to harass your opponent sometimes. I need to comment on that right there because that was a trade opportunity for you. Kayle is a ranged champion when her E is up, obviously. The reason I'm stating the obvious is because sometimes you get opportunities to harass your opponent in lane where you really should just be autoing the crap out of them, and this is one of those times. So good on you to first of all dodge when Urgot jumps forward right there, but you should be turning around and attacking him now. He's standing in your minions. You have like 4 minions that would be damaging him if he started taking a serious trade. So right here, yeah, look at this. The minions are already attacking him. You should have been auto-attacking him that whole time, because it would have chunked him a lot. Yeah. So you definitely wanna take that trade. That's for sure. Right now, the question that's going through my mind is, where is Sejuani? Because depending on where she is, you could either be abusing your lane and pushing Urgot in. Okay, she's mid, so you can push here, actually. As soon as you see Sejuani, the second you see Sejuani in the mid lane, ganking the Yasuo, you can just push. Just push the Urgot. There's no reason to play defensively, and I have to say, see, there again, you should have just went on him, like, seriously. Okay. Let's take another look at this. First of all, you're not pushing as hard as you need to be. Secondly, you're not getting as much CS. Like, your last hitting is okay, but it's not as good as it should be. Just generally speaking. Like, that, for example, happens. Look at Urgot's positioning. Look at your levels. Having a level up on your laner makes a huge difference in a trade, and it can be the difference between killing someone and dying to them. You're level 5 right now. This guy's level 4. Even if we look at the items, when he teleported in earlier, he didn't actually bring any items. He's still running around with a Doran's Blade and a potion. According to this table, anyway. So, and he's walking into your minion wave. I mean, what? Just auto him. Just beat him up, dude. Don't be so scared. I know that Kayle's supposed to be, like, weak in the early game, but if your lane opponent plays like that, you should just punish it super hard. And there's another example of bad last hitting, by the way, and there's another one. You're letting yourself zone. Look at that. He's zoning you. Why? Why are you backing off? There's no reason to back off. There's literally one argument in the whole world for why you should be backing off away from the Urgot in this situation, and that is that the Sejuani is trying to gank you. But you already know she's dead because you saw that in the mid lane, right? She tried to gank the Yasuo, she got herself killed, she's not in your lane. And again, look at how big your minion wave is. His melee minions are practically dead, and he's just walking up into you, right?
Forward.
You need to pay, here, if I was you, I would just dance around the minions. Like, maybe I'm being a little too aggressive here in my approach, but honestly, if you just dance around your own minion wave, you can deal so much damage to your lane opponent. So you're definitely not abusing the minions well enough here, and you're definitely letting yourself zone a bit too much. This gets dangerous, though, because you don't have any mana. Yeah. I wouldn't have went back up in the first place, actually. Okay. I'm going to rewind a bit here again. So here he goes kind of all in on you. And it turns out the way it does. You survive. You walk away. That's okay. And then the question is, why are you staying here? Is that because of gold? Do you need some kind of gold spike for your Berserker Greaves? Or what? Like, what is it? Because, first of all, if you do need a gold spike, and that's the reason why you're staying, then you can just blame that on your bad last hitting. Because you could have had that gold spike by now. And secondly, there's nothing you can do without mana against this Urgot right now. So, because you're not running Fleet Footwork, and actually I can't even see what people are running. That's super annoying. But I can tell you that you're not running Fleet Footwork, which means you're not healing yourself on your auto attacks, and you don't have your W to heal either, and to give you movement speed. So really you should just be basing right now and then teleporting back in. There's not much reason to stay. And look at the CS that you stayed for. You got 1 creep. You missed 2 melee minions, and then you last hit at 1 creep. So you're really just staying for nothing, and it's super risky, and yeah. If Sejuani was there, you could have gotten yourself killed. Maybe. Well, you still have that ward in the river, which is actually unbelievably useful right now, so maybe not. But still, the point remains the same. Nice flash. I like that one. I like the confidence. Okay. Yeah, so pushing up like this is fine. It was a good teleport to come back in because the Urgot is low on resources and you have a stinger on him, which basically means that he can't do anything against you. You should be spending your time warding right now. You have 2 options when you're looking at the Urgot. Option number 1 is you dive him and kill him, and you most likely can't do that in that situation. I think it's a little too risky, even if you do have your ultimate. Turret deals a lot of damage, and the other option is that you should be warding. So I don't know if your trinket is on cooldown. No, it's not. So yeah, you should have warded. You should have spent that time warding the Tri-Brush because Sejuani is on your ass right now, and you would have known that if you had done that. So if you get punished hard for this, and it doesn't look like you will, but if you did die, then yeah, that would have been due to poor warding. And partially the fact that you flashed in base, but let's ignore that. You should be collapsing on Sejuani. Why are you in lane right now? Okay. Looks like she got out regardless. Never mind then. My bad. But you can see, even in this situation, you should just be killing the Urgot. He has no mana, which means he can't do anything. He has less than half HP. And he's down on items in comparison to you. And again, you should be collapsing. Let's look at this. Imagine if you were where the Urgot is right now. Imagine if Urgot was back at his turret or whatever, and this was you. Free double kill, right? At least. And if Urgot challenges you, you can just force him out. Let's take a look at what actually happens, because I want to know. Yeah, so these guys are 2v2, they barely win, and good speed up. And this is where you come in. And okay, let's try and follow your camera and check that out again, because so the W onto Yasuo here is very good. You don't need to ult him, even though he is taking damage. He's not actually dying, and it's not that much damage because it's like right on the sort of the last ticks of it. So you go on Urgot. This is the right choice, the right call. You see that basically, okay, so it's fair enough that you don't see that Yasuo is taking damage. If you did see it, you would have ulted him ideally, but whatever, let's ignore it. Double stun from Jax. Pretty good ultimate on Jax as well. So I would say you could have played that a little better, maybe by ulting the Yasuo. To be fair, he shouldn't have been there to begin with, he should have just left. You should probably push up that minion wave, dog. Look at this. Okay, there's only 2 creeps. Never mind. I want to see what your farm is. 41 and 8 minutes. This is not good. Boots and a dagger. Goodbyes. Goodbyes. Nothing wrong with Berserker Greaves early. I usually get Berserker Greaves as my literal first item. My question for you right now is, why are you running back into lane without a pink ward? Here's a tip for you. Oops, I didn't mean to rewind, but here's a tip for you. When you are playing top lane, I don't know if you had the gold, maybe you didn't have the gold, but a good tip for playing top lane is when you're basing and you're coming back into lane, just buy a pink ward and put it in this brush right here. Because if you have your own pink ward in this brush as a top laner, then you can just ward the tri-brush with your trinket wards, and you become basically ungankable unless the enemy jungler goes over the Baron wall. But usually they won't do that because they won't suspect that you have such amazing warding for yourself. And if you do that, then it allows you to play super aggressively and push in.
Forward.
Wow, that's a lot of damage. Let's see what we can learn from this. I don't know too much about Urgot myself, but let's check it out. Okay, so looking at the items, he has a phage, makes him hard to kill. You walk up, get some last hits, and then, yeah, basically you just take a bunch of damage and you don't have flash. Okay. But you have your ultimate, right? Sometimes this HUD is a bit confusing because you can't really tell what the person has or what they don't have. I don't know if you had your ultimate or not because I literally can't see it here. But if I did know, then I would say if I did know, then I would say Urgot's ultimate is an execute, which means, and it's also CC, which means you can't actually do anything about it other than literally sidestepping it. Like, you can dodge it because he has to hit the skill shot, I think. So if Urgot decides to all in you, you need to ult the initial damage. Another thing I need to tell you is that actually I need to check if the Urgot was level 8 when he all-in'd you, because if he was level 8, that's probably the reason why he did it. No, he wasn't. Okay. Never mind then. So Urgot is just really strong. Okay. Let's speed this up. So you and Yasuo are swapping. That's okay. Kayle can definitely mid lane. What do you have for items? Okay, you still have the same stuff. What does Talia have for items? Oh, she's 5-1 and she almost has a finished Rod of Ages. Okay. Too early Q.
Forward.
Yes. Wait, what? Okay. Cool. Okay, so that's a nice freebie. Sometimes if you have okay map awareness, you'll just get freebies for no reason. I guess that's just one of those times. God. I'm sorry, but your last hitting needs some training. I know Kayle's splash damage, sometimes when you last hit, it can be sort of hard to get used to. And you will get it more if you play the champion more. Jesus Christ, you are not getting shit for CS. That is insane. You have red buff right now. I don't know if you know this, but red buff on Kayle is absolutely busted. I know that Talia is ahead of you, but I would probably not be as scared of her as you are right now, just because red buff is so good. Okay, so you guys are switching back. That's okay. You should be fine. And again, if you choose, should you choose to trade with this Urgot, you need to know what items he has. So you should be looking at the fact that he's running around with a Phage and a Ruby Crystal. Now, I think your red buff is just about to run out, but you should have probably abused it a little more. And maybe get a ward down in your Tri-Brush before doing so, because the Sejuani again could be top lane now, theoretically. And again, wow, look at the way that you're not abusing this red buff. You just... And now you're too close to the turret. You're still gonna be fine, though. And again, you're just not autoing him enough. There are so many opportunities in this game where you can just be... Literally, look at the way you're backing off. Why are you backing off? What are you going to ward your Tri-Brush? Is that why you're backing off? You know the Sejuani's bot lane. We're literally seeing Sejuani killing your bot lane. You don't need to be backing off. You don't need to be warding your Tri-Brush when you can just beat the shit out of this Urgot. And if it's because your E is coming down into melee form, then it's justified. But otherwise, you should be beating him up. And again, your kiting looks fine, but you're just not chasing him down. You're just not using, how do I put this? You're not abusing the fact that Kayle can really harass the shit out of someone if they miss position. There's probably been about, I don't know, 8 times in this lane where Urgot has mispositioned in lane, and you didn't capitalize on it, you didn't harass him at all, you just kind of backed off and let yourself zone from him. And then there was like one time when he chose to all-in you and kill you. If the thing about Kayle, the thing about top lane in general, your jungler needs some fucking help, bro. Let's check that out. Yeah, okay, so there's nothing you can do here to save him. That's okay. Good ward on the Tri-Brush there, by the way. Why are you here? What are you doing? What are you doing here? Urgot is in the mid lane pressuring your Yasuo, and your Jax is dead. If there's no reason for you to be in this entire area. The fact that you ran from Tri-Brush and around this wall and back here just makes no sense whatsoever. Imagine if you spent that whole time auto-attacking this turret instead. It would have been practically dead by now. You're standing still. You don't have teleport. Usually when people stand still like that, it's because they're looking for a place to teleport to. But you're just doing nothing. It's literally like you're AFKing. Your laner is somewhere else on the map, putting pressure down, trying to win his team the game, and you're not punishing him enough. That's how it is. The thing about top lane is, if your enemy laner starts to roam to other places on the map and tries to get an advantage, he has double buffs. You need to run the fuck away at full speed. If he starts to roam and tries to get an advantage for his team, you should be punishing that as hard as you possibly can, or you should be counter-roaming or counter-teleporting. And since Kayle has so much attack speed, and she's such a heavy auto-attacking champion, you should auto-attack him right now. Yeah, so the whole time when he's damaging the front of your minion waves, you should have been auto-attacking him, because you saw him leap forward, which means you know that that skill is on cooldown. And he's just sitting there with his stupid shield, tanking your minions, and you give him like a Q and a single love tap, and then you back away, which is not enough. Very good of you to play defensively in general when he has double buffs, though, and you should be warding your own Tri-Brush right now, because Sejuani's looping around for a turret dive. Yes, good job. Okay. So really, I think probably the number one and number two thing about your laning phase that I see that you need to improve on. Number one, you need to get more farm. You need to focus more on last hitting and get good at that. See, like you're just autoing without using your brain. You can just I can just see from the way that you're autoing the ranged minions when they're under turret aggro that you're just failing hard. And again, we see the Urgot out of your lane. Sorry for pausing all the time, it's a bad habit. We see the Urgot out of your lane, you see him near the mid lane, you need to punish as hard as you can, push that wave up, and that's very good of you to do. So good job on that one. Also good job on not overextending against him because you knew he was coming back. But yeah, you need to just seriously get a better understanding of, or not understanding, but like just better last hitting skill, because it's going to give you such huge power spikes in your items just to be better at last hitting, especially on someone like Kayle. Q him, auto him. You're not dealing damage. He's in range and you're not dealing damage. Oh my god. When you dodge his initial engage, it's really, really good. Like this dodge, for example, is perfect. But right now, you're not autoing him. Like seriously. Auto. I'm sounding like a retard right now, but it's... You need to deal damage when you're kiting. You can't just run away and do nothing. And again... We see some more last hitting errors. That's okay. You're getting ganked. Run. And good flash. And kite, deal damage. Yes, keep dealing damage. Okay. So that's not too bad. It's a bit of a troublesome situation, but you guys should get 2. No, you only get 1 kill. Okay. I'm gonna try and analyze this just to see if there's something you could have done better. I feel like you played it well overall, though. Okay. So, this is what happens when your ward is in this area of this brush. Okay, I need to go over some basics about warding for top lane right now. Because this whole situation could have been avoided. First of all, personally, I almost never use this brush, ever, because it's too damn close to the lane, and by the time you spot someone coming through it, they're already behind you, in a lot of cases. And on top of that, sometimes if you don't have perfect map awareness, somebody can just walk through, and if you don't see it immediately, like you have to see it instantly, and if you don't, you're just screwed. Because then by the time you see it, they're like in your lane. And the second thing I need to say about this brush is that if you are going to have a ward in it, I don't remember if this was your ward or if it was someone else's. But if you are going to have a ward in it, never put it at the beginning of the brush, ever, okay? Always put it at the edge of the brush. There's no reason not to, and it's so much better for your vision. The third thing I need to say is that if you're blue side, it's so much better to have a ward in the river, maybe in this bush, like I said earlier, you can put it here, or you can have a ward in the river here, maybe around the sort of the barren Rift Herald area, and then having something in your tri-brush. Now in this case, you don't have either one, and if we look on the map, we're not seeing Sejuani anywhere. We're also not seeing the mid laner anywhere, which is kind of scary, because mid laners are basically like a second jungler. And lastly, we're not even seeing the enemy bot lane. So when you look at all these things, it kind of makes you go, okay, when can we play aggressively and when can we not play aggressively? And this is one of those times where you have to wait until you see the enemies on the map before you can play aggressively. Now, with that being said, with everything about warding being said, if we follow this fight, Urgot flashes on you. You see the binding, you flash it, that's okay, not bad. But there's a long period of time here, I feel. Maybe that's just me. I feel like there was a long period of time where you weren't dealing damage. So they're coming in. Autoing once. And during this whole time, you could have actually just sidestepped that. You didn't need to flash it. If you just walk upwards here from this spot to this spot, you don't need to flash the binding, and you can use your flash for something else instead. And also, you should be auto-attacking while you're doing that sidestep. So now you're auto-attacking finally, which is good. Let's look at items. Your items are basically non-existent. You have a Stinger and a Berserker Greaves, and you don't have your Gnasher's Tooth. Let's look at Jax. Blood Razor finished, also finished boots, and then he has Phage and Longsword. So who deals the most damage? Early game Kayle or Jax with items? Definitely Jax with items. So who should we ult? Well, we should probably ult whoever is dying at any given time. But if we can make the choice ourselves to just save one person who deals more damage than the other, ulting Jax is definitely the right choice. Now the question is, did you ult him at the right time? I'm not too sure about that. But you did end up dying anyway, so I don't know. If this was me, personally, I would have probably ended up ulting myself and just escaping without using the flash for Morgana's binding and then flashing away from the Talia afterwards. But that's because I tend to get a little more greedy with my ultimates, and also because I know that I wouldn't have had to flash that binding, but that's another thing. So, definitely not a... You're not playing it poorly, I would say, so you shouldn't be too hard on yourself. But still, you should be objective in your analysis, and you should be able to say, okay, I could have definitely played that better. First of all, by just saving my flash, and secondly, I may have considered ulting myself instead of that Jax, even though he deals the most damage. Just because if you do save your flash in that situation, and you still have your ultimate, there's a chance that you can actually live. Now, something I need to say about having your Gnasher's Tooth finished. Once you have your Gnasher's Tooth, that means now you can do jungle camps. Which is very, very good for Kayle, because Kayle needs as much farm as humanly possible. She is a farm lord, and she needs her items. Now, here's another one of those cases where you're seeing Urgot doing stuff for his team on the other side of the map, and yet you're not pushing this turret. Why is that? Is that because you're scared? Who's going to collapse on you? You know that they're trying to do the dragon. If somebody is collapsing on you, you can probably either kill them. Look, you can see there's literally 4 people here, or you should be teleporting down, and that is actually what you're doing, funnily. So I probably would not have teleported to that ward, and you actually end up canceling because of how dangerous that is. So is a good cancel, I think? Well, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say, really, because being in the pit is kind of a shitty thing. But if you teleport to this ward instead, you have much better positioning. You can flank, and they can't really collapse on you properly without taking damage from your teammates coming from the other side. And on top of that, you would have had a perfect position to damage the enemy team as they're doing the dragon. And, I'm going to rewind again here. And you should have teleported earlier. If you see that the fight is breaking out, and you know that stuff is happening, you need to already be teleporting to this ward, so you can come in here, right? This would have been a dead Sejuani if you were already here. Instead of being a dead Sejuani, it actually becomes a dragon for the enemy team, which is not good. And they also have to fight the rest of the fight without you, which kind of sucks, because, again, if you could have come in from this side, it would have just been more free kills for your team. Now, what's happening here is you need to be pushing the mid lane and just taking the turret, which is what you're doing. That's good. So, the question that you always have to ask when your opponents are dead is, what can I do with it? And you should have probably just walked up, like, you should have walked behind the turret so you could kill the Sejuani. You saw that the Sejuani was getting chased away through the jungle by your teammates. If you cut her off, it doesn't matter if you're in turret range. You even have your ultimate. So you could have just gotten a free kill there as well. So definitely you need to see those opportunities. When you get a free kill, then you gotta take it, right? It's the same thing when the Sejuani was walking through the jungle down here, and you were in the mid lane and you collapsed on her, and you just got a free kill on the Sejuani because of that. That was another one of those cases, except the only difference is, in this case, you have to actually run behind a turret to do it, but it shouldn't stop you. It's not really a problem that there's a turret there, so. Okay. You should be warding that. Okay, you don't have your trinket, that's fair. Going back top is definitely the right call here. You don't have TP anymore because you wasted it, but that's okay. You can still split push as Kayle without the TP. What I usually do personally is I tend to stay in a side lane. Yeah, so this is what's so good about split pushing in solo queue is that you end up forcing things out of the opponent. What is this retard Jax doing? Are you kidding me? Wow. He actually stayed in turret range. Where's the Caitlyn? Okay. If the Caitlyn is not top lane, then you could have taken that turret. Whatever, it's fine. You don't know if the Caitlyn is there. If the Caitlyn is there and Sejuani goes on you, you're dead, so you're right to back off the turret. I don't understand why the Jax didn't want to drop his turret aggro. That was really strange and stupid of him. He should have done that. As I was saying, what I usually do personally is I stay in a side lane until I have my Rage Blade, because you need the farm that badly. And right now, that's a bad ward. Okay, let's talk about ward lines and turrets. If you are pressuring an outer turret in a side lane, your ward line through the jungle and or the river should be basically, okay, if I remove my camera and point it out on the map, it should be basically like this, right? So essentially, it's from turret to turret. That's how it is. Now, if you have the outer turrets down, you're not going to be pressuring them anymore. You're not going to be auto-attacking the enemy turret around this area. And on top of that, the Baron is spawning, or has spawned. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be pressuring the inner turrets, these two turrets. So you need to move your ward line up. So instead of having a ward line that's from here to here, you need to have a ward line that's from here to here, right? So it needs to kind of almost stay in line with the enemy turrets. That's how you create a macro pressure advantage. Because if you have a ward line like that, then the opponents can no longer enter their own jungle. Because you're either going to be there waiting for them and you're going to kill them, or if they do enter your jungle and you're just pressuring the side lane, then you can just back off and get away scot-free without dying. So this is definitely not a good ward. Another thing I need to mention is that if you're going to be warding the Baron area because the Baron has spawned, you should be warding the pit itself, not the Tribrush. Well, that's not always how it is. It depends on the situation. But in this situation, you should be warding the pit, or you should be warding in front of the pit, because you don't have any vision of the pit itself. So if your support is not doing their job and they're not granting you vision of the pit, then you should be doing it. Or at the very least, you shouldn't be warding the Tribrush instead. There's no reason why that ward should have priority. Now, if your trinket was a sweeper, I could understand it, because there's an actual rationale to sweeping the spot that you're recalling on, just to make sure you're not killing yourself. Now, it looks like these guys are kind of fighting, so you're definitely right to go in and join the fight, just to make sure that your team's not dying for nothing, but it looks like they will kind of die regardless. I don't know. That was a late ultimate on Jax. You should have ulted him way earlier if you're going to ult him at all. The thing about Jax is he becomes immune to auto attacks during his Counter-Strike, but as soon as his Counter-Strike wears off, he starts taking a lot of damage. Let's take a look at this again. Okay, so your Lux dies. She misplaced. That's her fault. You can see Jax using his Counter-Strike right here, right? So you don't need to ult him right now, but now he's in it, and the Counter-Strike is down. So you can just see that he's taking so much damage. You're coming in now, and you have been in range to ult him for probably like half a second, or I don't know, maybe like 1 or 2 seconds. and it should have been earlier than that. If you're gonna ult him so late, don't even ult him at all. Just save it for yourself, or for the Yasuo. Urgot flashes in, you need to run. Kite, kill. Yeah, you should have flashed that binding. So if you flash forward there, if you flash the binding, you just kill him outright. And then you can run away. Yeah, so the thing is, if you flash forward and kill the Urgot, you will still die. But at that point, you're at least trading a 1-for-1. Whereas if you actually get binded, you will just die for nothing. This is definitely one of those cases where you should have been kiting further back. Let's take a look at this again. So straight from the beginning of the fight, you guys are at a disadvantage. It is now a 4v5. So your alarm bells should be screaming to run away and to not fight anymore. I know that Lux just hit 2 people with her binding, but seriously, it's like a frontliner and a tank. Actually, it's a Morgana and a tank. So there's no reason to go in on that. You know that there's 5 people to fight against, and the Jax goes in, Sejuani ults your AD carry so she can't deal damage, and she gets chunked to half health, and Jax is just dying, your ultimate is wasted. Basically everything goes to shit in this entire fight, and part of the reason for that is because... you're fighting 4v5. So yeah. There's a lot of points to make about that fight. There's a lot of things to learn. One of the most important things is don't always ult the guy just because he's fed. And your ult timing also needs to be very, very good if you're going to ult someone that's not yourself. Now, what the hell is that? How do I get rid of this? Hold up, I'll fix it. 1 second. Spectator HUD. Okay. Okay, it looks like we're back. I'm sorry about that. This Jax is crazy and suicidal, but also really strong. Oh my god, what? Really? No, he used the Q. Oh, he shouldn't have done that. Yeah, don't overchase, that's stupid. Okay, sorry, I got a bit, I got a bit entertained by the Jax there. Let's keep an eye on your play. So we know that they're fighting. Jesus, camera, please. So we know that you're fighting. Or Jax is fighting, and you catch Callista out of position. This is great for you, but Callista is going to deal a lot of damage. You see she has Liandry's and Sorcerer's Shoes. She has double pen, and you don't even have your Rage Blade because your farm is fucking awful. Which means she's likely to win that trade, or she can win the trade. She also has double buffs. It kind of depends on her cooldowns and how she uses her spells, but you should be expecting... Yeah, so we had vision of everything that just happened. We knew that that was going to happen, so there's no reason for you to walk forward into a Sejuani ult. I know that you can't see the ult coming like that because of the brush, or I think you can't see it coming. But still, you're just kind of walking face first into a whole bunch of stuff. Let's get you respawning and see what happens for the rest of the game. So you teleport top lane to get the creeps, that's okay. You should be splitting bot lane, to be honest, because bot lane is further away from Baron. If you're gonna use your teleport and you no longer have it, you can choose to split top lane because that puts you closer to Baron, and that's actually a good thing when you don't have teleport. But if you did have teleport, you should be splitting bot lane for sure. Overall, you are pretty weak right now, but you can still solo the Caitlyn because Caitlyn is a useless champion and she deals no damage at all. You can pretty much always solo Caitlyn. That should just be like common knowledge for you. Especially this Caitlyn. Look, she's 2-6 and 6 and has 140 CS. In fact, there's not a lot of people on the enemy team who can solo you, so you could be split pushing if you wanted to. It's good for you to follow the pressure that Jax is creating, though, because the thing about League of Legends is it's all about playing around your strengths. It's all about playing around your advantages and who's fed on your team. And right now the Jax is super fed, and that's a very good ultimate, but I don't know why he's counter-striking while you're doing it. Your ultimate and his counter-strike should never be used simultaneously. Almost never. You seriously need to start using your W to sidestep those bindings. One of the best things about Kayle's W is that it grants her a movement speed boost. And movement speed boosts kill that Sejuani. Seriously, kill her, kill her. Oh god. You should have killed her as soon as the Lux binded her. You should have known that was a kill. It's okay for you to back off here. Yeah, okay, so she just flashes on you. That's fair enough. Your flash was fine. I would definitely... This is definitely a game where I would have focused a lot more on farm, personally, and I would have probably split pushed a lot more. But I do think that the way you're playing around the Jax is very, very good. So if you ever have somebody who's like super fed on your team and who's going to carry hard, as a Kayle, it's really, really good to play around that. Blade of the Ruin King, or if you're building Gunblade, that's okay, but Blade of the Ruin King is a good buy here if that's what you're building, because they are fairly tanky and they will have large health pools. Especially Talia and Urgot, you can see from their builds, like Talia has 3 health items. Rod of Ages, Rylai's, Liandry's. That Talia has so much health. Blade of the Ruin King is the perfect counter to her item build right now. And the exact same thing counts for Urgot and also for Morgana. So Blade of the Ruin King is a really, really smart choice here. Let's check out that fight, actually. Okay, so you should be splitting bot lane. Or fighting with your team. What are you doing, dude? Okay, you're just kind of running it down mid. That's interesting. Yeah, so Caitlyn, she might be a useless champion that deals no damage, but she's still gonna outrange you because she's still Caitlyn. Your Jax dies somehow, so okay. If you're gonna group, you gotta group. And if you're gonna split, you gotta split. First of all, there's no real reason for you to push the mid lane other than just to get the farm, because you already have supers there, and there's nothing for you to take. You see the mid inhib is down, so there's nothing for you to take there. So really you have 3 options. You're either going to split bot lane. I don't know why it shows that you don't have teleport. I'm pretty sure that you have teleport at this point, so I think that's a glitch. You should either be splitting bot lane away from the Baron, and then if the enemy collapses on you, then your team gets a free Baron. And if they don't, then you just get turrets, right? If they choose to contest the Baron, you'll just get turret after turret after turret, and you'll get super fed off the farm. The second option you have is to split top lane. Why is that an option? It's an option because the turret is really low, so it's just free gold to take. Whenever a turret is really low, it's always worth considering if you should just push that lane and try to take it. Because it's just such easy gold, and it's so much gold that your team gets out of it. And the third option, which is the one that you're doing right now, but you're not doing it correctly, is to group with your team. Now, we know that Urgot is dead because somehow your team killed him. I didn't see what happened, but we are seeing that 3 people on your team are on less than half health, and you're solo pushing the mid lane, and you know that the enemy team is standing right here. We literally saw them like a second ago, right in that area. So you should be expecting them to come around the bend and start damaging you. Why are you walking upwards, though? Like, look at the way your team is positioned. We have these two idiots doing the most moronic Baron call of all time, which means you should be expecting them to get super chunked, which means they basically can't participate in the fight. Your Tristana's already half health, and this is a 2 and 6 3-item Lux support. Do you expect when you run up into this choke point that your Tristana and your Lux can save you? Because really, you should just be running straight backwards. And instead, the Caitlyn gets like, she actually accidentally cancels an auto. If she didn't cancel that auto, she would have gotten 3 free autos off on you. And you have to waste your ultimate, which is fucking terrible. And it looks like you guys are still alive. I'm gonna wait and see what happens here. Yeah, okay, so there you go. That's why you don't overstay with like 0 health. And there's also no reason for you to stay. When your health bar is low, just base. Literally, staying is like, there's just no reason for it. You have to ask questions like, if I stay here, what am I going to achieve? Am I going to prevent them from doing the Baron? No, you're not. You don't have your flash. You don't have your ultimate anymore because you had to waste it because of your because your positioning was like really weird and you chose not to just run away. And you're super low on health. I mean, if you were to ever get CC'd or even just autoed by the Caitlyn, you would just die. So of course you can't prevent them from doing Baron when you have nothing. Basically all of your resources have been used or wasted. So there's no reason to stay there at all. See, so imagine if you had actually went back to base by the at the time when Yasuo based. You would have come back with just as much health as the Yasuo. And you would have probably killed them after they took the Baron. So this is one of those times where your general understanding of the game, you can tell when you analyze yourself that it's lacking. You should definitely take that red buff and split bot lane right now. You need that red buff. It's so good on Kayle. You should also be taking the Krugs afterwards. Let's see if I can lock the camera down on you. Why are you not taking the Krugs? Okay, he's taking the Krugs. Fuck it then. If Jax wants to be greedy and take all of the jungle camps, that's okay. You can just split. Usually junglers won't do that, and if they don't, you need to be taking the jungle camps for them, because it's just free farm and free experience for you. Now, backing off here is definitely the correct call, because the entire map is dark, and they would collapse on you and kill you immediately if you overstayed. It's still fine to be in a side lane, though, so I don't know why you're running all the way back to base. That's a little weird. You should probably just get wards down for yourself. What? Okay, that's a really weird ward. You still have the outer turret. Look at where the enemies are, or where your team is positioned. Your top outer turret is on full health. This is still standing, barely, but it is standing. And your team is like super far up in the mid lane with super minions pushing. Nonetheless, I mean, I know the enemy team has Baron, but they would have to push against super minions. You have a pink ward here, and then you choose to ward this brush. Makes no sense. That brush is a little better. I realize that you're trying to set up for when they will push you in, but if you're going to do that, you should wait for them to actually push in a little bit. Just a little bit, so that you can at least know that it's going to happen. Because you can't know for sure if they're going to actually know how to use their Baron buff. Especially not in this elo. People are unbelievably bad at closing out games in gold. Which I think was pretty well shown by the fact that you guys just completely threw the game at the Baron / mid lane. Again, splitting bot is fine. The thing about splitting against a Baron team is that if they pressure your team too much, you have to base and help them. But it doesn't look like they actually know what they're doing, so they're just kind of collapsing on you instead. And you'll be fine here, because you backed off in time. and because you have flash. So you need to flash right there. Yeah, so the Sejuani gets the slowdown on you. Okay, I would have flashed that if that was me. As soon as the Jax goes in, you need to be dealing damage though. You're backed off too far. Good on you to actually ult him though. So well done on that one. But your teammate awareness needs to be a little higher, because as soon as the Jax goes in, there's no reason for you to not be dealing the damage, because he's the one tanking the enemy team, and he has an AoE stun. I mean, it is Jax after all. You know his skills, right? He has Counter-Strike, he has an AoE stun. If he actually gets it off, they can't deal damage to you, so there's no reason for you to not just turn around and beat the shit out of them. And of course, when the enemy team dies, you need to capitalize on it by going mid lane and taking the inhib, or just keep pushing on the turret, as you are doing. If you can't actually get the turret, you should probably just go mid lane, and go mid lane, and go mid lane. Looks like you're fine though, because you will get the turret, but now you're not going to get an inhibitor, because you have to back off. Unless you don't, because Caitlyn mispositions? Okay. Interesting. I would have ulted that Tristana. Yeah, so that is way, way, way too late. You should be ulting the Tristana much earlier. The latest you can ult her, good flash. The latest you can ult her is when the Caitlyn ultimate comes in. And I'm honestly surprised that Caitlyn's ultimate didn't just straight up destroy the Tristana, but then again, I think that's a testament to how god-awful that champion is right now. I would have probably made the call to just abandon bot lane entirely when that exact play happened, and just get the mid lane inhibitor again. But it's fine, it's okay. You get a turret just the same, so that's good. But I'm interested to see what you're gonna do now. Jax is solo splitting, so this means that you guys should be focused on defending 4v5. So basically you should be grouping with the rest of your team and try to make sure that the enemies can't back and kill the Jax. Yeah, kind of like that. Exactly. Because if the... you should just ult yourself before you get CC'd. Talia's burst damage comes out when she knocks you up. So you should ult yourself as the knockup is coming out from under you. Do you know what I mean? Like, she puts down the little circle and it knocks you up. You should be ulting yourself as that's happening, because that's when Talia deals the most damage. Jax overextends because he doesn't know how to split push properly. And you guys are back defending again. Jesus Christ, people really don't know how to finish, do they? I'm gonna speed things up because this is getting pretty ridiculous. This is 5v4, so you guys should be defending. You should be spending your skills on wave clear. Let's see what happens. CZ rot shouldn't matter. Clear the waves. Yes, auto the minions, auto the minions. Get rid of the minions. Yes. Correct. God, those traps are awful, seriously. So your Jax has respawned, it's no longer 5v4. You should be posturing around the Baron, which means, again, you now have the option to split bot lane, or to group with your team, and this time you do it correctly, and the Urgot decides to intentionally feed and give you a free victory. That's nice. So basically this is where you go Baron, or you get Baron, and then you go bot and mid. You're going top, interestingly. That's also a viable call, but I probably wouldn't do that. But the important thing is just that you're getting 2 lanes. You need to get more than mid lane right now. Getting mid lane inhibitor right now without getting anything else doesn't really do anything at all, because they could just clear it super easily. You need to be pushing as hard as you can. And it looks like you are. And again, these guys taking the inhibitor. You should be... Okay. Yeah, you should just keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And take the inhibitor. Or finish the game if you can. You really need to take that inhibitor. Yeah, yes, take it, take it, take it. You still have your ultimate. Just take the inhibitor. And run, run. Okay. If you and your team played that properly, you could have gotten all 3 inhibitors. I don't know why they chose to focus on kills instead of objectives. This is one of those times where you should have probably just spam pinged the shit out of your team and told them to get the bot lane inhibitor. You need to be basing right now. Okay. You are gonna base. Cool. Definitely in League of Legends, if you can take an inhibitor, it's much, much more important than getting kills. The only situation where kills are justified is if it allows you to finish the game. But that just wasn't possible in that situation. Especially because your team chose to actually turret dive. Which just makes finishing the game even harder. Because that's exactly how you stall out a game, is by making the enemies turret dive you. God damn, that Tristana's awful. I'm just kidding. Good call to just start the Elder Drake, by the way, but you should have probably had a pink ward on it. I'm not blaming you for that, necessarily. I'm just saying, if you're gonna actually start a Baron or start an Elder Dragon, you should pretty much always have a pink ward in the pit. Just to make sure that the enemy team has a minimum amount of information. It's correct to siege the bottom inhibitor. Jax should not engage without his team. That is very risky and stupid. I don't know why he's not being punished for it. These guys are really bad. You're probably taking a little too much poke, but luckily you are Kayle, so you should be able to heal. And go in! Get the inhibitor, get the kills. Get the stuff. Yes. You should have ulted yourself. That's okay. Kayle is the kind of champion where if you ult yourself in that situation, you can literally just flash forward and pentakill them. I realize you ended up kind of saving the Jax, but even so, sometimes you have to ult the person who deals the most damage and not the person who just lives because of it. Alright. I'm gonna try and sort of sum up my thoughts here in the end. The laning phase, you need to get better at last hitting, focus much more on actually abusing your champion when you can in lane. And if you get skilled, if you get good at abusing your champion, you will also reach a point where you get good at playing the high pressure game. In other words, making sure that you have vision for yourself so you don't get killed when you're playing aggressively, you know? And the other thing I want to mention is that your sort of team fighting / macro / late game play definitely needs some work. There are a lot of times where you're not dealing as much damage as you could be dealing, and also, if I was you, I would probably be split pushing a little more, but it's hard to really criticize you for that, because you did capitalize well on the fact that Jax was really fed. It's just too bad that you guys completely overextended in the mid lane several times and killed yourselves. Sometimes when you're super far ahead, it's just as important to not give the lead back as it is to actually get stuff, you know? So if you can get an inhibitor and run away, you need to just get the inhibitor and just run away, you know? Instead of getting the inhibitor and then overstaying and trying to get like a Nexus turret or whatever, which is like worthless basically, and killing yourself in the process. So definitely a lot of things to work with, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something useful that you can take in your games in the future. And thanks for listening. Have a nice day. Peace.